Hi, everybody. My name is Lisa Bousson. I'm professionally known as a psychic medium. And also I have
Rudy Hunter. I'm a healer and a teacher.
great. So today we are together talking about healing for light workers and how we can clean up our mess that just sometimes just happens, without our interference or being unaware. So Rudy, how would you describe what we're going to be covering today?
I love your description better than the fancy thing I worked out. Yeah, we actually we interviewed a lot of people before we did this because Lisa and I have opinions about stuff. We have been in the biz actively working for years.
Yeah.
It has been individually and cumulatively a long time. I just did the math this morning and nearly fell out of my chair. I've just hit 40 years of working with people and animals. And
I'll
boy,
be
are my arms.
damned. Look at that. You've got me beat. Professionally, I've been working as a medium for almost 36 years now. I'm at 35, so almost at 36.
Wow.
And and this is what scares the shit out of me. I've been working with spirit and talking to spirit for 59 years.
Wow. That's mind-boggling.
Who would have thought I'm that old?
No. You look marvelous, my dear. And Lisa has basically the second most actually you have the most stressful job. Second most stressful job is air traffic controller. First most stressful job is spirit work. So we're here to basically help light workers, whatever it is you're doing, whether you're doing hands-on healing work, remote healing work, whether you're doing psychic work, whether you're doing mediumistic work, whatever milieu you're in. We both work with people. We teach all the time. We've taught for a long time. And lo and behold, over the years of teaching, the same questions always come up. They have a different flavor, but honestly, the pro tip is they're always the same questions. So we're going to tackle bits and pieces of this so that when you come to this with a cup of coffee or tea or bourbon, however you want to watch it, we don't care. You'll get not only your questions answered, we'll seem a little psychic even because we know the questions you have not because we're that clever, but because those questions are the same. And we'll give you a lot of experience and information about things you can do. This recording will also include some energy work that I'm going to do to make this thing that we all signed up for. Lisa signed up for it. I signed up for it. I would like to go back and actually notate the form where I signed up. It's like, please don't make this hard. We all signed up to be people and animal and other helpers. That's really what we are as light workers. Lisa and I would like to see more happy, strong, vibrant, powerful, self-contained people do this work. And I'll out myself first. I was not like that at the beginning. I don't know about you, Lisa.
I don't think anybody is, because I don't think we fully understand the dynamic or the impact on ourselves that doing that work has.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right.
We all have that, the teaching where you have to ground yourself and protect yourself. And well, you know what? Sometimes that stuff just doesn't work well enough.
Right.
So today,
You're gonna learn the good. You're gonna learn the good stuff, boys and girls. So,
yeah.
So we are thrilled to have you here, and this will probably be not a one and done. You will probably want to lean into this while it's available, and just listen again, just so you garner as much as you can, because that's why we're making it available.
Great. So Rudy and I have both posted on our Facebook page and our website asking for our light workers, and even those who don't consider themselves light workers because they might not be in the biz, but they're light workers nonetheless if they're on our websites.
Right.
So we've asked them to post questions, and today we're going to be tackling some of the most prominent questions that we have. And as Rudy mentioned, we run into the same things over and over, and there was a lot of repetitive questions. So we're going to do our best to pick off or check off those questions that you have.
Good. Take those boxes.
Yes.
So One of the, I'm going to save the biggest chunk for a little bit. The biggest chunk, I'll tell you in advance, is confidence. We never think along the scale of if we're a newbie, if we're not such a newbie, if we're an old hat, if we're dragging our butt old hat. We never ever feel as light workers that we are somehow qualified enough, valuable enough, skilled enough to have the level of confidence we know we're capable of in our head. We're going to help you get there more directly very shortly. We'll do some energy work specifically for that and some tools that you can grab and hold, because that thought alone is a powerful one that disables a lot of people helpers. It makes them stay at home and not offer help. It makes them hold back when there's a crisis where they can be very helpful. And I always read that as a tragedy, because I mean, I know my agenda personally, and I'm pretty sure it's Lisa's is the same. I want to populate the world with more skilled folks who are a little more willing to reach out and help. Because I mean, look around us. God damn, we need the help. So, that's my bias anyway.
Right. My idea is not only arm them with skills and tools that you can provide, Rudy, but my job is always been to empower someone. And I think if you're on my Facebook group, you know that my motto is you be you, so that we all have our own unique qualities. And the biggest thing that my promotion is that you don't compete with someone else. So your version of healing or centering or grounding or protecting someone else is going to be completely different from someone else's. And that's good.
Right.
Because we all have our unique gifts that we share with the world. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
Exactly.
Are you ready to dig in, Rudy?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Good job. All right. So here's a question that I received. It is, how does someone keep themselves and their home vibrationally healthy?
Good question. You want to go first?
Sure. So Rudy will come to it from a healer's standpoint, and I'm going to come to it from maybe an energetic mediumship standpoint. Okay. So you're going to get a little bit of two different things. So whoever you vibe with or whatever, just soak it all in, because you never know. Rudy and I are here to plant seeds for you. There you go. So one of the things that I do personally is, of course, let me back up a step here. There's something great about using sage. Everybody says use white sage. I say that's great when everything's all lovely and flowery and fine. But when shit hits the fan, in my estimation, white sage usually isn't enough.
Right.
That's my opinion. Okay. So to keep yourself and your home, keeping in mind that one can affect the other, your biggest challenge, and it's going to be a repeat challenge, is to make sure that the dissonance or the disagreements, the arguments, the craziness, the stress is minimized as much as you can. And it's almost like, leave your junk at the door, kids. Leave your junk at the door, because otherwise it's a never-ending battle trying to get through that energy. All right. That's the first step, in my opinion. What do you think, Rudy, about the house aspect of it?
I love this question. I could actually talk for an hour on it. So, keep your house clean is number one.
Yeah.
Physically clean, vacuum, dust. I am the least biggest fan of that, and I do it because tidy house, tidy mind, tidy life, happy house, happy mind, happy life. In addition to keeping it clean, I have the same sort of rules. There is no way in hell you could get me to fight in the bedroom. No. Just
exactly.
Never, because we sleep there. We're with ourselves, or we're with a partner, or I don't know, maybe we're the bus load. Who knows? But never in the bedroom. I knew this was not going to be PG. So the next thing to do, you don't have to do what I'm suggesting. These are just quick things that I do. You can go to every corner in your house or apartment or wherever you're living. You can make circles with your fingers up the joins in the walls. I challenge you to do that when you're a little grumpy, and then see how your house feels or how your apartment feels after you've done that. That's a way of clearing the space where energy tends to interrupt or block because it has to change flow.
Can you show us what you're talking about? Like we're like in a corner of the room?
Yeah, the corner of the room. So here's you can get fancy with this. Here's one wall, it intersects with the next wall. I take my fingers almost like Scouts honors. This is an old Qigong thing called sword fingers. You can Google it. You can probably Google everything these days. Here, I just make circles all the way up and down from the floor to the ceiling.
That's wonderful.
If things have been really bad, I will also do the joins where the wall meets the floor. So I'll also do along the floor.
Very good. I love that. I really love that.
Thanks.
So, and I've heard of people putting like bowls of salt in each room. And
I love salt.
I know. Well, you know what I do too is once my house is all cleaned out.
Yeah.
I get some kosher salt because it's pure, and I go around the perimeter of my house. Now, if you live in an apartment, that might be a problem. But I go on the perimeter of the house, outside, mind you, and I have unending or unbroken line of salt around the perimeter. But that is once the house is already cleansed. And so I would use this little trick that Rudy's just shown you to help clear out that energy. So
I do the same thing with the salt. I live in the woods, so I have property on which I can do that. I also, if there's been a visitor to the house that I get a bad vibe on or something creepy has happened, which is very rare because I'm very meticulous about, this is what's called energetic hygiene. I'm meticulous about this stuff. I will also, in addition to the circle, I'll put a burst of that salt on any entranceway to the house on the ground. Yeah.
Yep. Yes. So when someone comes to the door and they have this like white line, it's like that test. And you pass this.
Yeah.
Can you go over that, or are you blocked? Yeah.
And by the way, when you're cleaning or after you're cleaning or before, however you do it, make sure you open all the windows. I use fans to blow the air out of the house because with the air goes the intergalactic schmutz, which is creating the problem.
Yes, I recommend that. When I do a home cleansing, which is rare anymore, but because I always teach everybody how to do it themselves, I use a combination of white sage, cedar, sweetgrass, Palo Santo. I mix it all up and I chop the heck out of it. Nice. And I use that. So I get the house really smoky, like crazy smoke. So make sure your smoke alarms are off. So I get the house really smoky, and then I open up the windows, because energetically what I see is we have stagnation, like heavy, nasty energy. And all that, the smoke and whatever we're burning or whatever we're using, kind of minces it. All right. It kind of minces it, but it doesn't remove it. It just minces it. True. So as Rudy says, open up the windows, flush all of that out.
So here's another thing. I don't like sage, not because of its effectiveness. I'm allergic.
Oh, okay.
And I can't do smoke-based stuff. So what I do is I substitute a lot of those similar things in essential oil, and I will fling the oils around. I mean, Palo Santo.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I used to, I don't know if I still have them. I used to create an 8-ounce bottle of home cleansing spray, and it was all essential oil based. Yes, with Young Living oil. So Young Living, doTERRA, whatever the big names, the pure names that you know of. All right. So, but how does someone keep themselves? Let's say if it's starting in the self. So your best bet is, especially if you work outside the home, which let's face it, most of us do. If you work outside the home and you're bringing in stress, or if you're bringing in negativity or whatever, check yourself before you walk in.
Yep.
Don't wait till you're in the house and then sit there. No, do it before you bring that negativity in the house. Don't walk in the garage, don't walk in the front door.
What's your door check though for that? Like, let's say you're coming to the garage or your front door or back door, whatever. What do you do to disperse that at the door?
Yes. So what I do, and this might sound kind of strange, and I got it from George, which is Rudy's
George, my
husband.
husband,
Yes. Yes, your husband, George. I
right?
actually got it from George. It was kind of a funny thing because I'll show you. He used a deck of cards once, and he says, make sure you clean your cards by going like this. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, fine. That was cool. But then, so what I do, and this might seem really strange, and the neighbors probably think I'm a nut job, and that's okay because I kind of am. What I do is I imagine like a white light or even a circular guillotine going down my body, like, okay. And sometimes I pat, sometimes I turn around, like reverse, like reverse order. So sometimes I'll do that, and then I'll take a deep breath. Sometimes I say a prayer talking to my master, which is Jesus, but it could be Buddha, Kuan Yin, Maitreya, whatever. So there's different things that you can do that are very quick and instantaneous if you realize that you're carrying some heavy duty stuff, because what you carry in the house gets amplified by everybody else.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are wondering, yes, Lisa is great fun at parties. I do a lot of those things too. I used to do them more externally. I tend, just for speed alone, I tend to do many of them internally. I'm going to teach you a very, well, rather than telling you what's coming up, let's just do it. I'm going to teach you a very fast thing. It'll take a few seconds to learn it. Once you're down with it, it's like probably take you 5 seconds. Imagine you're standing on the floor or the ground, and there's a compass at your feet. So north is ahead of you, south is behind you, west is to your left, east is to your right. You're going to do either a physical, which I recommend to start with, or eventually a mental, what's called a midline zip up, which is a way to change energy very quickly. You're going to take your whole hand, you're going to touch your pubic bone. That's the bone directly north of Disneyland on your pelvis. You're going to run it straight up and touch your lower lip just one time. That resets an order for whatever you're focused on. I know I glossed over that quickly, but it's really useful. It changes your energy in relation to what you're focused on. Very soon you'll get sick of doing this. You'll just do it mentally. You'll do it in a millisecond, and you'll be done.
Right.
So let's say you're standing on this imaginary compass at your front door. You're about to go inside, and you're carrying, energetic caca with you from the day or from some event that happened. Focus on north, which is straight ahead of you. Do a zip up. Think about behind you, which is south. Do a zip up. You can change hands, doesn't matter. You can do it with one finger or the whole hand. You're going to do west next, which is to your left. You zip up. East to your right. You're going to add 2 other places. You're going to use up or heaven or sky, however you think of it. What's above you, you'll zip up. And then what's beneath you, which is the ground or the earth, you'll do a final zip up. That's enough to change things dramatically for you. There's one other thing that I do is I take a millisecond more and I focus on all the levels, layers, and spaces of those directions and do a final zip up. That's like a catch-all to make sure that something isn't hiding in the corners. If you do it, and you don't have to do it fast, you will eventually do it fast because there's nothing to it. It's very quick. You'll find that that's a very fast way to reset who you are and recenter yourself without having to think about or process anything. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of our first technique that you can use anywhere. I often recommend, if you're new with this or you feel weird even about standing on your front step. I mean, Lisa clearly does not. Nope. If you feel weird about standing on your front step, doing this thing, you can do it mentally, which is where you'll eventually end up doing it. At work, they made bathroom stalls for spiritual and personal development. It's a place you can be private, close the door, do your zip ups, and then feel better.
I love that idea. So then no one really knows what you're doing.
Nope.
You public place and no one knows I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then once you clean out, then protect yourself, ground yourself, surround yourself with a bubble, whatever. And then, because if you're in a workplace, you're
coming up against it every millisecond.
Yeah.
One of the we had several versions of a question which is very similar to this. and the question really was, given today's environment, the news, the craziness, the world, the bombardment, the media devices, how do you stay on top of protecting yourself? And the answer to that is, and I'm going to point out something very important, the same way you stay on top of it. They call it energetic hygiene because it's like brushing your teeth. You don't just brush your teeth one time and then you're done for your life. You have to keep at it to stay clean or accessible to yourself so you can be accessible to other people. In terms of today's environment, I love this because we're not currently in a world war. We don't have empires collapsing right, left, and center. Every person who's ever lived has this question and believes that their time that they're alive is so much worse than every other time.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true. We don't currently have a World War I, a World War II, a Korea. We don't have a gas shortage. I could go on and on. The point is that idea is inflammatory and is conquered by just keeping energetically balanced. You'll find the more balanced you are, the less the world will affect you.
Mm-hmm. You know, you had mentioned earlier, and I can't agree more, about whether you're a neophyte or you're advanced in Lightworker, or whether you even recognize yourself as such, that anybody can get into those pickles. And I had mentioned to you that over the last year or so that I myself had been like, holy moly. And I feel like, especially over the last couple of years, you know, with COVID and everything else that's going on, the politics and nonsense, that the light workers are more affected. I think, well, I know that every light worker is an empath. So you're going to suck up everything, even more so. So it takes a little bit of our own juju upon ourselves.
Yes.
You know, to get ourselves back into a place where we don't allow ourselves and our own lights to dim while we're trying to help everybody else, right? And that leads me to the next question that I had faced was, when we are projecting our light into the world, whether it's a particular person or a country or a scenario, whatever, how do we keep our own lights from dimming? In other words, how do you not give up your own light instead of projecting into the universal light? You know what I mean? You know?
Yeah.
So it's a really, as an empath and as someone who's lived through that, it's a difficult knowing where we can channel that energy and allow it to flow freely through us versus using our own energetic light, if you will. Now, as a Reiki master, I teach that all the time, where, you know, we can give and give and give, and then we're depleted. And it's kind of like the flight attendant says, put on your oxygen mask, chickie. You know,
I love that. I love that allegory. Yes.
It makes sense. So when we are intentionally using our own light to help other people, my suggestion always is you need to ground yourself so that you can tap into that universal energy. And then, you know, so let's just say you're grounding with your feet or your tailbone, whatever. So if you're grounding, you bring the energy up and through you and out your hands or out your third eye or out your crown chakra or whatever, so that you're not tapping into your own self and depleting yourself. Because let me tell you, you won't last long if that's the case. You just won't. You just won't. You'll be like a bag of noodles, and like, what good is that? Right. And then the possibility of you becoming ill is greater, because then your auric field or whatever is depleted, and then you're going to cause tears or weaknesses in your auric field. Then you invite in pretty much any other nasty jujus. Yeah.
Yep.
What do you say to that, Rudy?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. So I agree 100%. And just a couple of caveats. I'm not going to name names because it would be cruel and rude. There are there's more than a handful of healing systems out in the world that require you to use your own energy. If you are a practitioner of one of these things or studying it currently, please stop. because you will end up in a much worse scenario than Lisa even paints. You're not going to get a cold or a flu. I mean, it'll start there, but you will get so depleted that you will require expert attention to get your energy back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one. Make sure that the work that you're doing is universal, comes from an endless supply, is always available, and is also always available even when you're having a bad day. Because, you know, healer people, light worker people have bad days, as we all know, and we still got to go to work. We got to hook to that force or field or power, however you want to describe it, without depleting ourselves. The depletion that comes from energetic work is really important to pay attention to. It leads very quickly to a level of depletion that is actually fairly tricky to fix. You can't just rest it away. I wish that were the case, but it requires a lot more than that.
Yeah, it does.
And then the other piece is to always be, I set for myself, only born out of horrible personal experiences, the goal to always be the energetically strongest person in the room. Because over the years, myself and a few of the people I love dearly have suffered when they were not the strongest energetic person in the room, and the strongest energetic person in the room had malicious intentions.
Yes.
So I'm talking obliquely about psychic attack, which is, I'm sure, a whole other call we will end up doing. Don't be that person. And then the one other thing I wanted to add is, if I trained healers, which I do, we'll talk about that later, the single most important lesson they must learn and must obey, not because I say so, because I've made this exact mistake 100 times, they have to have the best boundaries imaginable. Because empaths as a rule, light workers as a rule, puppy lovers, huggers, are people. I'm talking to you, people. I'm talking about us. I'm talking about you.
Yep.
We are full of empathic holes, and we just want to pour our guts all over you. And that's a terrible recipe for depletion. So good borders, just like good fences make good neighbors, good borders make great empaths.
Well, that leads us to the next topic.
We're just segueing along.
You are. So as an empath, how can someone keep themselves safe from soul suckers? Which is pretty much what you just talked about. Now, I know, and I became very much aware of that happening over the last few years, where, and you probably noticed it too, even with COVID. So when you're not around society, you become more hyper aware of what's going on in your home, which your home is you and your surrounding, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you represent yourself to the public, and it's like, oh goodness gracious, I feel dirty. I feel like stuff all over me, foreign energy, if you will, right?
Yeah.
So the only thing that I was able to do was stop what this person questions and says soul suckers. I stopped that. I stopped myself from one, interacting with them, and also from allowing myself to be drawn into the drama. That's a big thing. That's a big thing. So as Rudy said, when you go into this group, you want to be the strongest person in the room. But sometimes we just don't think of that. If you're not conscious of that, although being an empath, you should be. Mm-hmm. So build up your energy prior to going to that situation, into that room or home or business or whatever. But there comes a time as an empath or a light worker where you have to say, working with a specific demographic either is not your forte, or I feel like being drawn into that situation, I would have difficulty with.
Yep.
So separate yourself. You do not need to enter into any relationship with anyone who's going to abuse your muscles, so to speak, right? Whether it's family, friends, coworkers, just the public in general,
Yeah.
right? So if you're forearmed, that's the first step in my book, right? So you walk into a situation where you're protected. You have the self-protection of whatever you're using, and understanding that you do not have to have those soul suckers in your proximity.
Right.
And if that means removing yourself, then so be it. What do you do, Rudy, when you know you're going to be around someone who's taps your energy?
Oh my God. I love the fact that we've just gone right there. So being the energetically strongest person in the room always means I'm fastidious in doing my energetic cleanup work. I'm going to give you a real pro tip here that solves 85% of most problems. That is, make sure that your personal and business ethics, I mean business if you're running a practice, make sure those two sets of ethics are at peak performance in every situation, because that solves most problems. And it has a definite play here. The next part of this is, Lisa's exactly right. You don't ever have to engage, work with, work for, be hired by, be part of some group that has this person in it, and you love everybody in the group except for this schmuck who you know is a psychic vampire. You don't ever have to be part of it. And you'll have all kinds of circumstances where that'll be exactly the case, and it'll be excruciating. And when you trust your guts in this, the payoff is a kind of freedom that you can't buy. And let's say you're also at an event where you get surprised. By the way, another pro tip about this, Lisa said briefly in the list of people who are fairly notorious, family is the worst, by the way, because they know where your secret panel of buttons are, and they're like drunken monkeys. They just do this. They just push it, and they love you. But I love you. That's kind of what's going on. Not your whole family, not even schmucky Uncle Joe who gets drunk at the Christmas party, who pisses everybody off. It's usually not him. It's usually a much closer, deeper relationship with a significant member of your family. One of the reasons why Thanksgiving and Christmas can be excruciating, and you can leave so drained and so depleted. So what do? You limit exposure for sure. If you are pretty darn sure you're under some kind of psychic attack, or just the beginnings of it, somebody's got their claws into you, you limit contact aggressively. Don't get hired by them. Don't join a club they're part of. Don't say yes to a picnic where we're just all getting together and you're so fabulous. They will be full of compliments. If they want your energy, they will kiss your patootie 28 ways from Sunday. I will once again out myself. I have helped a lot of sensitive people get their energy back after a psychic attack, because I know the lay of the land. For me personally, and that's something that I can do without much trouble. For me personally, I found out that one of my huge weaknesses used to be, thank God not anymore, was email. It was very hard for people to Shazam me at events or in public or face-to-face even. I mean, I never liked it. Email, they could get to me because I read their stuff. I read the hooks. I took them on because of empathy. And back in the day, I used to get a certain type of email and be disabled for 3 days on the couch, wanting to close my practice. It was horrible. That is no longer the case. And one other fabulous piece that Lisa brought up is there are sets of kinds of people, groups of people who you should never, ever work with. It's different for every practitioner. Lisa probably has the same history I had, which was I had this, I can help everybody. Was that you, Lisa?
Yeah, I was ignorant, wasn't I?
Yeah. It's it's tedious. It's a phase we all go through until we realize that not only am I not helping those groups, because you won't help them, and not only are they not your people, because they ain't, they're actually dangerous for you.
Yes.
So there are sets of people, and in my line of work, those are usually people who come in with, it's not a long list, but it's a very short, powerful list for me of conditions I will not work with.
Mhm.
Being okay with that is really important, because
It's to me, I think that's the most important thing, Rudy, because it comes with a price when we think, it hurts to know that I can't help a specific person.
yes, yeah, it does hurt.
Mhm.
And as grown-ups in the field of light work, that's actually great news. There's a kind of freedom for not having to throw yourself under those 3 or 5 buses. However, my list is only 3 things, and no, I will not tell you what they are. There's only 3 groups of people I won't work with, and I get the pleasure and the freedom of not having to throw myself under those 3 buses again and again and again when people ask.
Yeah.
I'll help the others. There's plenty for everybody. And there are great practitioners who work far more brilliantly than I do with those sets of people. So that's them. Let them be with their people.
Right. There's a situation that I do, for instance, when I know I'm going to walk in to a situation, and mind you, this is a personal experience, when I'm going to be walking to like a family reunion or a family holiday or whatever, and my trigger person is going to be there.
Yeah.
For sure.
Always.
And as an empath or as an intuitive, I could feel that energy building, like, one of those things. So what I learned how to do was I projected, and this is where I came up with a bubble, where my bubble's like 3 to 5 inches thick. It's malleable but impermeable. And I put that up before I even walk in the house. I know it's very simple, it's very rudimentary, but it works.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to this woman, and I'm like mentally imagining this bubble as she's talking, and I'm listening to her. And all of a sudden she says, something's different about you.
Yes.
So she could pick it up. What's happening is even she, who wasn't really an empath, was picking up that her barbs were not getting to me. So they were returning back to where they came from. So she wasn't offloading her negativity, and it wasn't sticking. So even doing that, so if you have any concerns about this not working, it does.
That's very powerful. And don't, I reiterate, don't let the simplicity of what you just heard fool you. What makes this happen, you don't have to be a person of faith.
No.
And out of the other side of my mouth, I will tell you, don't let the word God, Jesus, whoever, your list of Lisa already ran through the list. They sound like Larry Colonel, which I love. It doesn't matter to Lisa. It doesn't matter to I. Where a stronger source of faith is for you personally. I'll give you a couple of examples that are completely outside of religion and regular faithfulness. Qigong's a great one. Chanting's a great one. Religion, if you like it. Non-religious practices, if you don't like it. If you're really agnostic, as I started life, nature, fabulous. If there's a stronger river that runs through you, the bubble works better. Everything we've taught you works better. Everything we will teach you works better, because not only are you not alone, but there's a real spiritual law that says, and I love this law, the greater includes the lesser. So your battle with whatever Karen you have to deal with in life is made smoother. I hope her name's not Karen. Is made smoother, easier, and more graceful because you are part of a larger faithfulness. And honestly, I don't care what that faithfulness looks like. My pro tip is connect with that faithfulness every day, not even for what we're talking about, for this and everything else. You'll smile better, you'll dance better, people will like you better, the traffic will flow better on the way to work. Everything gets better by just that connection to the larger.
To the universe, to the source.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah. It does. So I did want to mention when you were talking, it kind of triggered something that I had heard years ago, is that without allowing that woman's energy to come at me, am I not just then furthering the harm? No, because it's this her energy that belongs to her. It's up to her to cleanse that energy, and not up to me to take it and accept that, right? So it's not like I'm not intentionally doing her any harm, just the energy's flowing back to where it originated.
Yeah. Okay. And if that energy were pure of heart, it would benefit her enormously. Exactly. It ain't. So
but that's hers to deal with, not mine. Exactly. That's just that.
And this idea that we have to give sanction as a victim is ridiculous. It's the same idea that you were asking for it. You were wearing a terrible energy work miniskirt. It's a dreadful idea. But yeah, we are responsible only for ourselves in this situation. Mm-hmm. So there was a question asked by a couple of clients who asked it slightly differently, and it really clicked for me because I suffered with the same question for a long time. They said basically, I have certain disorders or conditions myself. How do I put myself out as offering healing work if I have this thing that I'm embarrassed, ashamed of, working on, whatever? And I can only use myself as an example. There are things I won't work on with people because I'm currently working on them and I haven't resolved them. So in my estimation, that's not for me to tackle because I still need help with that. And by the way, I'm getting help with those things. And then the other version of that is if you have fully recovered from whatever it is that is a condition. I had a long-standing breathing problem and a long-standing anxiety problem. Kissing cousins, very related. Those are not only fully resolved, they were resolved by me using energetic work. So I work with folks very proudly these days to help those conditions because they were a burden, they're resolved. I know this map of the way out, so it's very useful. If you're currently dealing with the same thing a client is dealing with and you don't have a good map, send them to somebody who's got a good map, who is preferably a kind, lovely person.
It's interesting. We circle back a couple times already to realizing our own strengths and our own weaknesses and to not feel as though we are lesser than. So if we feel it's in the client's best interest to forward them on to someone who either has successfully overcome something or just something that we're not equipped to handle. Because I don't know about you, Rudy, but I know that once I've overcome something, it's interesting how the universe provides us with clients who are like going through the exact same thing.
Yep.
oddly, coincidentally, spontaneously. It's just synchronistically, it's just a weird thing how all of a sudden I've overcome something and apparently the universe feels that we have some aim or some goal here that we've succeeded in. Mm-hmm. And out of the woodwork come these clients for us that oddly had the same problem.
Yeah, it's like magic and it's very reliable. Uh,
Well, I really think that we need to go through the nonsense and the BS
Yep.
so that we can go through it with someone else and forward along the universal knowledge that we've gained through the experience. And, it's like going to someone for grief support or psychological support or whatever. And they can give you the scientific, this is how you do it.
mhm.
But if they've never been through it, they don't
Right.
have that link or that pull, right? So they can't speak from experience and they don't know your pain. They don't know what you've gone through. They can give you the scientific stuff, which is great. Of course, it
Yeah.
might be very
Yeah.
helpful for you, but going through it and teaching about it, they're two different things. It's nice to meld those.
I couldn't agree more. When I search out a practitioner, I'm working on myself all the time. All the time. I mean, I use my own work for that. And when I'm out of my wheelhouse in that work, I go hunt down practitioners for particular things. And I'm very fond of saying the healer I want to work with as a client is a bald, rickety, embarrassed, over sweaty guy with a limp who has figured out how to solve this, because there's visible evidence. He struggled, but he knows the map. He knows the way out. He knows the way through, for exactly those reasons. I want somebody who has been up at 3 a.m, crying or whatever it was.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Let's
Everybody, we have, between Rudy and I, again, we have a bazillion years of experience, and if we can help you in any way or shape or form, Rudy does healings. I come at it from a psychic, mediumistic standpoint. So there's different routes to this, and whatever works for you. Rudy, can you give me information on your website, any
Sure.
programs that you have ongoing or classes you have upcoming or what have you?
Sure. I always send folks to my website first to go poke around, because I'm the first one to tell everybody I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and I'm usually not anybody's first call. I'm usually in the last 3 calls. So, and that's good. That's perfect. So the main site that's really, you'll find the most goodies. Most of my goodies that are up on the site are free. So it's huntershealingcalls.com. All big long word, no spaces. And the other one, if you're interested in learning skills for healing for people and animals, so you can work on both species, the other site that I have is the ashworkerstrainинghub.com. I know, big long words, I should have shortened them, but I didn't. That's a way to work remotely and hands-on, if you wish, on people and animals, and at a distance. It's a full skill toolbox. When you go to huntershealingcalls.com, I want you to find 2 free resources that will help enormously with what we've talked about here. Because sometimes you just need some help first, even before you learn stuff. And these are very useful. On the blog page on that site you can find it by name. You just scroll down until you see the title. It's How to Pull Yourself Together. It's a very simple little process to take the bits of yourself back from the relatives, bosses, family members, strangers, baristas who've taken a little bit away from you so that you're feeling depleted. This is a way to summon those parts of yourself back. And as you do this, it's a very visceral feeling. You'll feel more of yourself because you're returning to yourself. And then the other thing that's worth hunting down on the site, that takes a little more work to find, but you'll find it. It's called The Closer. The Closer is a way to energetically and very quickly shut all the doors that are left open between you and other practitioners or other participants in your healing. And I know that will sound a little strange to you. Here's an example. Let's say the acupuncturist you went to 2 years ago helped you a lot, did great acupuncture, I'm a big fan, but was not energetically as fastidious as they should have been. there's a tiny little draw or leak from your energy from this practitioner, from those sessions you had. When you close the door, that stops and more of yourself returns. So it'll do that very quickly in, I think it's 4 or 5 minutes long. It's free. You can use it as much as you like. Lisa, I want to know how folks get to you to learn. We got a lot of questions about, I know things, I think I know things, I got stuff to say, I need training, I need skills. It's like, tell me.
I'm your girl. I've been teaching now mediumship and psychic development for years.
Right.
So, right. My training has been in the spiritualist church. Now, am I ordained? Yeah. Am I religious? Yeah. I, like Rudy, I'm more into the universal source energy and, you know, like everything's one and all that kind of stuff, you know. Anyways, that being said, my website is lisabousson.com, but it's easier just to type mediumlisa.com. So go there. Also, I have a resources page. So go to lisabousson.com/resources, and I've got all kinds of information there on psychologists and pet health and just all kinds of stuff.
And Bousson is Bousson, right?
Yes, Bousson.com. Yeah. You know, I often wonder, like, what the hell was I thinking? I should have just stuck with my main name, which is Alan. It'd be so much easier. Like, what was I thinking? Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So anyway, so mediumlisa.com. There you go.
And Lisa always has cycles of teaching that she's doing.
Mm-hmm. So if you look at the events page on my website, I always have classes and events coming up. So the latest news is there. So if you're interested, some are in person, a lot of them are online. So check out the events page on my website and you'll be up to snuff.
Awesome.
Up to snuff.
I want to do a process because I promised it at the beginning on confidence. I could, if I had you for 6 hours, we would probably do 5.5 hours of stuff to help build confidence because it's most important. So it's really worth working on, and you can use this process. The recording will have the energetics of it embedded anyway, and I've set it up to do 2 things. You're going to actively participate mentally. Honestly, that's to keep your mind out of the way. And there'll be energetic work as well. So here's what you're going to do at home. If you live on your own or people are out, you can do this out loud, which I recommend. I do this stuff out loud because I lose track if I do it mentally. But if there are people around, you can do it mentally, and it works. It does work just as well. You're going to say 2 opposing things. You don't have to believe them, but you need to use these words. You're going to say to yourself or out loud, I'm not enough, followed by, I am enough. Let me demonstrate it for you. You're going to say, I'm not enough, I am enough. I'm not enough, I am enough. You're going to go for about 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes. While you're doing that, I'm going to go silent inside, and I'm going to activate 2 strangely connected, powerful places. One is known as conception vessel 17, which is the heart center right here, right there. The other is on the back side of you above your lower back, called Ming Men. Ming Men is usually used to change blood pressure. Your blood pressure will not change doing this if you know anything about Ming Men. It's just a way for these 2 places to talk to each other, and that's what we'll be doing energetically, because these are big places where those beliefs about ourselves get snarled up. All of that is blah, blah, blah. All you have to do is repeat to yourself, I'm not enough, I am enough, at a leisurely pace. It's way better if you do this with your eyes closed, but if you're driving or operating heavy machinery, don't do this at all, because that's dangerous. Be safe and sound, all right? So if you're safe and sound, allow your eyes to close. I'll let us know when it's time to come back, and we'll get the work started right now. Finish the repetition. Allow yourself to come on back slowly to here and now. Eyes open. And on your slide back, take 3 or 4 seconds, scan through yourself, notice what you notice. There is no wrong answer here. What are you aware of that may have improved or shown up? And what are you aware of that may have left? Just like Elvis leaving the building, often when we do this work, something just declines or sneaks out.
Fighting for myself. I don't know what anybody else, throughout the session has experienced, but there's a pull or a pressure in my chest. Like I could tell that it was work done, right? It's not bad. It just feels, I could tell it's there.
Yeah.
And what I found interesting was as the session progressed, I could hear myself saying, I am not enough. I am enough. I am not enough. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough.
Right.
Yes. I love
It's
that.
it's the truth of all of us. And when we spend time on the periphery of that issue of enoughness, we find a much more comfortable home in the middle. So this process, even though it's short, you can lean into as often as you wish. You can mark out where it comes on the video, and you can fast forward through all the yakety yak we do, although we think we're fun, and come right to this process and just do it in between things. Start your day, end your day, or maybe do this for a bit and then sign up for one of Lisa's classes to go learn how to do the stuff.
It's always great talking to you, and I'm sure everybody's listening in, and just there's a lot of aha moments. Very cool stuff you teach. Very cool stuff you teach, and because I've taken his classes, everybody. I've taken Rudy's classes, and
Thanks.
pretty remarkable what I've learned. Let me tell you, pretty cool.
Thanks.
Good stuff.
I just like the fact that thanks to tech, we get to hang out, do the work, maybe nudge a few of us more towards the starting line or the continuing line, so that folks who Lisa and I won't even meet will be helped by what you'll do or what you'll say. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Lisa. Love you lots.
I love you too. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
God bless.